And unlike Where the Wild Things Are, this segment of the top 5 is films based on actual events.
But just like Where the Wild Things Are, we can argue about it.
Yes, absolutely, and probably will. Now, when I got into this, I'm thinking, I wonder if I can find 5. But then I started seeing and thinking about all these movies that are based on actual events, and some that I said, well, could it be an actual event? Well, sort of, but it's sort of a stretch, and so maybe some of them didn't make my list. But there's a lot of great movies that are based on real events. So I'm kind of curious to see where we went on this. So what's number 5 for you? Let's just dive right in.
Number 5 is JFK. That was actually one of the
Which
first.
was about who?
Oh, some guy, John Kelly? Kennedy. John F.
Right.
Kennedy. It was actually one of my first based on true events movies that I ever saw. It's super long, but it's really good. And those lines like back and to the left just get stuck in your head. And when I was writing this, I kept having that playing back in my head. And something about it is really interesting. It intrigues the audience and intrigued me and made me want to research more, despite all the files being confidential and whatnot.
Right. Now, did you see it at a younger age?
Yes,
obviously?
actually I did. I saw it when I was 11, actually.
All right, because I know a lot of older people hated Oliver Stone for the movie, you know, just because of the length and things like that. But I do remember when it came out that it was intriguing, and it did make me not go online because that wasn't possible.
Not
but I had
possible
to
yet.
drive down to the school book depository. And
Oh my gosh.
where I
The
lived.
library, Matt. The library.
Library. That would have been better.
Darn those new titles they put on those buildings.
But because in Dallas we have the whole JFK. I don't know if you've ever been down there.
Actually, I have.
See, it's pretty cool.
There's a funny story behind that. I'll tell you about it another time.
I like it. We'll
Hey.
do the top 5 funny stories involved around a movie.
And your number 5?
My number 5 is a movie that I loved growing up, and it's just been one that I still can go back and watch, and that's Amadeus, which of course is it's based on, of course, Mozart, but it involves the sort of conspiracy theory that he was murdered by another composer. And so, but the acting in that, the funniness of it, just the lines of
Crazy pink wigs.
too many notes. As a musician, I just love everything about Amadeus. It came out in 1984, and still one of my favorites.
I totally forgot about that because I love that movie. I honestly, gosh darn it, I should X something out now.
Nope, too late. Number 4.
Number 4 for me is Catch Me If You Can. One of the few DiCaprio movies that I actually like.
I'll give you that one.
It's just one of those where it keeps the audience interested in cat and mouse. There's just something about a good cat and mouse movie that you have to enjoy. And everyone just played their parts in this well. The writing was interesting. The story itself was just...
I was trying to say, even the real story is phenomenal.
I know. This guy actually got away with all this.
I know.
It was incredible.
It was. And Leonardo did a great job. So, yeah, I can see that one being on your list.
Yes.
My number 4 comes from 1989, a little darker movie, but still one of my favorite films to watch simply because this is a topic that I could have probably picked all 5 of my movies around this topic, but I didn't. And it's Mississippi Burning, which is was the movie about the 3 civil rights workers who come up missing, and the FBI goes into this little town in Mississippi and starts meddling around and breaking up the KKK, and just the intensity and the message of it, and just everything about that film, from the cinematography in Mississippi and everything about it, it's one of my favorites. So if you haven't seen it, you might want to check it out.
I need to go see it then.
You need to see it. Number 3?
Number 3 for me is Goodfellas.
Really?
Yes, because when I saw Godfather and everything, I'm thinking, this is awesome, but
I didn't know Goodfellas was based on a true story.
Yes, it is actually.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. Calm down, Joe Pesci.
I know, I was actually about to mention Joe Pesci, but in the movie, the writer, the person who wrote it, was actually the real life mafia man who at the end gets into the witness protection program, but he comes back out to write this movie and become famous.
Right.
But I always watched The Godfather hoping that this, in a way, was real because it was so cool. And then when Goodfellas, when I saw that, and my dad told me that it was a real story, I was so amazed. Like, oh, there is the mafia. It's real. It's not just, it's an urban legend.
Right. Maybe I could join.
Yeah. I'd make a good package person.
Yeah, and the mafia is like vampires. They're really not good guys.
No.
But you kind of love them. They're kind of cool.
I know, because there's always that lovable mafia Don who just is cool and has all that kind of stuff.
I love it. So, yeah, I think that's what made them, popular.
And Joe Pesci in it, awesome. It was because I only seen him in Home Alone growing up.
Right.
So for me to see Joe Pesci as this, I was
Right.
totally thrown off my rocker, amazed by his performance.
Right. You expected him to walk in a house and trip over some marbles
I know,
or something.
paint hit him in the face. I know. What about your number 3?
My number 3 is a movie that I think is fun. I think it kind of represents a time period, especially on the West Coast, and that's Lords of Dogtown. about
yeah.
Z Boys in Dogtown. Catherine Hardwicke kind of did the documentary and then kind of came in and did the
Built
film.
into that, yeah.
Yeah, so I just love it. I love the whole skating aspect. I love the storyline. I love the characters, and another great role for Heath Ledger. That he'll always have. So so a very, very good film. Came out in 2007, I think it was, 2005, 2007? Six maybe? Yeah, I guess it was earlier then.
Yeah, I think it was 6.
Yeah, so good film. So that's my number 3. Number 2?
Number 2 for me, okay, I had to put this on the list because it's just an epic movie, Titanic.
Okay. Let me just say, I didn't put Titanic on there because the Titanic was true, but the story of Jack and Rose wasn't.
How do we know that? Because there could have been a couple like that.
Maybe, but see, and I'm glad you put it on there because I almost did. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, of any genre. I love Titanic. But don't make that face at me, Courtney. I do, and I get ridiculed by it, but I stand firm. I can watch Titanic. If it comes on at 11 a.m., 11 p.m., whatever, I'm going to watch it. I've got the extended DVD set.
Me too.
Everybody think about Titanic. I love, yeah. I remember watching it in the theater. I know we're going a little bit long in this segment. I watched it a little bit in the theater, and I remember Cindy and I going to Chili's afterwards, and we're sitting at the bar going, what did we just witness? It was just like the most amazing thing for that time period. So I go back to say I didn't put it on my list because it was loosely based on Titanic, but not the characters, but yeah.
True. But the fact that it was about the Titanic. And for me, I don't care so much about the Jack Rose part of it. I care more about the actual Titanic ship.
Right.
I care about that part and all the lines that have to do with the actual historical events. And they do keep it, even though it was loosely based in the sense of those characters, they still had actual real people, like actual characters, people from the story itself.
Absolutely.
Unsinkable Molly, she was in it.
She was in there, and they kind of referenced, actual people who were on there. So yeah, I give it to you. I'm glad you put it on your list, because you can be blasé about some things, Rose, but not about Titanic.
Nope, not at all.
So there you go.
He just quoted it. Yes, he did.
Yes.
Okay, and your number 2.
My number 2, like I said, I could have made my whole entire 5 about the genre, and this was kind of the same time period, but the movie Bobby that came out that Emilio Estevez did about the assassination of Bobby Kennedy. Yeah, it's the story about the day that Bobby Kennedy is assassinated at the hotel, and just and it's like 5 different stories and how they all come together. It's powerful. One of the best movies I think made in 2006. Again, Emilio Estevez directed it, and I think even wrote it.
He knows what he's doing when it comes to movies.
Oh,
he really knows how to make a great story,line, put the right actors in it,
and
right
the
writing.
right music, and everything about this movie, I think, captured the volatile place that our country was in. Martin Luther King had just been assassinated. All this was going on, and then Bobby Kennedy was coming in, and he was a man that I think could have done some great things, and cut short. So I want to check out. So your number 1, I'm interested.
My number 1 is actually a more recent one, Frost Nixon.
Oh.
What? Do you not like that? Are you serious?
Yeah.
I will admit the first half was very long and very drawn out, but the second half of it was amazing. I was totally enthralled in it. That last interview scene, I was like, yeah, you take that, Nixon. I was so into it. I just loved it. I honestly thought it was a great movie. Everything about it was intriguing to me, and it stuck. It stuck with me. That was one of the first movies that came to my head during this. I'm like, Frost Nixon.
Interesting. All right. Well, there you go. That's why these things are fun. That's why we do.
And your number 1?
My number 1 was obvious for me because of the category. My number 1 is Star Wars. Has to be the best movie ever based on actual events. I mean, you have the whole sequel of watching this guy, Anakin, grow up from being a kid and chronicling his whole... No,
it does say a long time ago in a galaxy far away, so we can't prove it exactly.
Right. So, I'm sticking... No. Actually, my number 1 was a movie
Star Trek.
that I watch all the time. It's one of my favorite Denzel Washington movies. It has so many quotable lines. It has those heart-moving moments. It has those stand-up and cheer moments. It has every element of civil rights, of family,
where you're going with this.
Of sports, of the underdogs, and that's Remember the Titans.
That was almost on my list.
Yeah, one of my favorite movies based on actual events.
It's a great movie. It has so many heartfelt moments that I almost cried in that movie. I'll admit it.
Always do. And you cry for different reasons. You cry because you're sad, or because you're laughing really hard, and just the bond that all these students go through. So that's our list. But again, a hard list to make.
Very much so.
And I'm glad you put Titanic on there. That made it all worthwhile. So I can take another small break and come back with maybe some closing thoughts, or we might just be done. I don't know. I never know.
See what happens.
We'll just see what happens. But check it all out on our website, mungleshow.com.